and start in 3, 2, 1, go.
Welcome back to RIPDebt23 2023. I'm Zoku and I get to be your host for our next run, StarCraft Brood War, the any percent Zerg campaign being run by 7thace and Cerebrit. You must raise funds for RIPDebt and ensure that you see 7thace kick butt at this run. Take it away.
Hi everybody. I'm 7thace, joined by my wonderful commentators Grant and Ektar. Most of you will know Grant. Grant, say hi.
Hi.
And plenty will know Ektar. Ektar, say hi.
Hello.
Alrighty, so I am both sick and having to do this run. I will not be talking a whole bunch. You'll be guided by the wonderful commentators throughout this run, so... yeah, is everybody ready to get started? Are we good on the tech side?
All good.
Cool. Alright, in that case, I guess 3 to 1 go. 3, 2, 1, let's go.
Do you want to get started, Grant?
Yeah, no problem. So the first mission of this run is Vile Disruption. It is kind of an introduction to unit control in the mission. What Ace is going to have to do is get to 7 different hives on the map, rescue them. What he's going to do is, instead of actually clearing them out and saving them, grabbing a bunch of these very fast Zergling units and blitzing them through the map basically as fast as humanly possible.
Yes, he has to bring all of his purple units over to all of the hives, which are the central buildings in all of these little bases that he's running up to, and he has to be standing next to them long enough for him to gain control of them. Once he gains control of all 7 hives, we're going to have to fight one big army that we basically can't lose, and that'll be the end of the first mission.
So the big issue with this mission, and really all of StarCraft Brood War and StarCraft 1 in general, is that the pathing is made in 1997. It is absolutely garbage, and he is working with units that basically die in 1 to 2 hits to everything. So as you can see, only 2 of his Zerglings actually made it to the 6th hive to get in, and hopefully they're going to be able to make it to the 7th. Very low HP. But he does manage to get it, and now he's going to get a huge number of reinforcements. He has skipped basically saving 6 of the 7 hives. But all you have to do is kill the enemies at the end, and he'll win.
Yeah, and as mentioned, this army is actually unbeatable by the enemy forces, and it's just on Ace's control to make sure he kills the enemy forces as quickly as he can, because the mission won't end until the island is clear of all enemy combatants.
Yeah, so Ace is bringing a couple of those Hydralisks off into the top left in order to spawn camp them. He has taken all of the enemies out in the area and moved into mission number 2. So you will see that Ace throughout this is going to be saving and reloading quite a bit. This is dialogue skipping in StarCraft 1. There's a lot of story-based dialogue, and if you save and reload, then it just doesn't play.
This is basically an in-game cutscene. We have no control over what's happening right now, but there's actually still RNG involved. Like you saw those Marines run down and then back up. They don't have to do that. A lot of times they'll just run up and shoot, so you can just lose a couple fractions of a second because the units don't play nice, but...
yeah, that cutscene's time is based on how fast that first generator dies, and unfortunately, one of the Marines just decided to not help.
It's not a huge time loss, but it's also just something we can't really control at all.
So for the mission proper, Ace now has an SCV with what is called a Psi emitter. This is a unit that he can use to bring next to feral Zerg broods, and they will join his command. Ace is going to go through a very specific route to grab all the Zerg that he wants, and then he's going to rush them all to the end of the mission and try to take down the objective in the middle of a heavily fortified base without killing any of the heavily fortified base.
Yeah, the previous mission was supposed to be an introduction to unit control. This mission is meant to be an introduction to producing units, and we're going to skip that phase of the mission entirely. Just use the heroic units. The red units in this are all heroic. They're twice as strong in all ways as the regular units. We're just going to use those to go and blitz the final objective down without building any buildings.
Exactly. These heroic units are originally intended to just give you like a nice little buffer as you build up in the early game, but they are strong enough to finish things off. So Ace is going to swing past to get this extra set of elite Hydralisks, and then there's one more unit that he's going to need, and then he'll be ready to go.
Yeah, this is a cool little trick where we have to get by a siege tank, which can kill our side disrupting carrying SCV in 2 hits. So we're going to use this one Zergling to soak a tank shot right there. That way we only get shot once, right there, and then we can go over and pick up the big bad Tarask, which is a hero Ultralisk unit and is also product identity free from anything WotC owns.
He is big, he is bad, and he actually paths decently, which is a very exciting thing in StarCraft 1. So this Ultralisk, this Tarask, is going to lead the charge. Ace is going to dive into this base and try to snipe as many siege tanks as possible to reduce incoming damage, and then he's going to try to get as many of his forces as he can onto the side disruptor main objective and target it down.
The most important thing that it does is it has a ton of health and armor, so a lot of our other forces are going to get taken down here, but as long as we can get our Tarask relatively healthy on our final objective and just right-click it down, that'll be the end of the mission.
And he is going to be right-clicking, because the correct thing to do in StarCraft is if you spam-click on a structure, you actually deal damage a little bit faster, because there is a random delay between attacks, but if you spam-click, you get to avoid it. And he easily crushed that mission. That was actually very clean.
Alright, this mission starts a little bit similarly to the last one, where we don't yet have any buildings, but we can't just blitz through and kill the final objective, because there is no final objective to kill on this map. We actually have to mine 10,000 minerals as the objective of this map.
Right, so what Ace is going to do is bust through this little outpost and take a hatchery here at the minerals. This is the first time that he's actually going to engage with the RTS part of this RTS. And then he is going to head over to the top right, grab another base, and then pretty soon he's going to head into the center and take a third base. Then he's going to make a huge number of workers, and he's not going to do anything else. He's going to try to defend the entire mission with what he has right now.
And if I could just interrupt for a quick announcement.
Go for it.
So we've hit over $1,000 raised at the moment, $1,059 to be exact. Whenever y'all got time, I'd love to talk a little more about the cause we're raising funds for and read the donations that brought us there. But until then, just letting you all know, thanks to your generous donations, we have cleared so much medical debt at this time.
Well, you've got good news. This is the slowest mission that exists, so you have plenty of time during this mission before we get into the crazy fast ones.
All right, perfect. I came in at just the right time. So, like I said, we've raised $1,059 from this event. All your donations are actually multiplied by 100. So I'm going to have to do math real quick, but I believe that means that we have eliminated over $100,000 in medical debt at this time.
105,900.
You know what? You are better than math at me because I dropped that last, and I'm very sorry to those $59 because I knew I couldn't do the math in time. But our current the current RIPDebt event total record for donations is $1,140. We've got 4 runs left in this event, including the current one you're watching by 7thace. So I think we're really close to beating that record. And speaking of the donations that got us there, there's a $25 donation from Anonymous. No comment, but thank you so much for your generosity. And $100 from Nay. Say, we finna Zerg rush that!
Let's go, Nay.
And of course, when you're donating, you can still put your donations towards incentives for those last couple of runs in this event. We've got the cult name for Cult of the Lamb still open. And you can choose from Cult of the Death, Cult of Rip, Cult of the Meteor, Cult of Speed, and Test Cult. Those are the 5 names with Test Cult in the lead right now, $100. Second is Cult of the Meteor with $67. But you know what? This is an hour and 40-minute estimate run. You've got time to get that change before Cult of the Lamb, which is our next run.
Alrighty, so one of the things that we're really trying to do on this mission, like I said, it's to get resources, to get to 10,000 minerals, but we don't want to go straight to 10,000 minerals, because every 2,000 minerals, the enemy forces will send an attack wave. So the optimal strategy for this mission is to spend actually as many minerals as possible, building up your economy with all of these drones that you can see going around picking up minerals and bringing them back. Build as few army units as possible, because every unit that you produce is, I mean, that's money out of the bank. And then try to get from just below 2,000 to up to 10,000 as quickly as possible, so the enemy forces don't have as much time to do damage.
There is actually a secondary victory condition on this mission, where in theory, there are, 5 different Terran players, and if you destroy all of their command centers, you can win the mission. However, no one has figured out how to do that faster than just mining the money, which is a shame, because this is basically what you get here. By far and away, this is it's the slowest mission in this run, and is definitely the least action-packed, but it'll be over soon.
I would argue that to slay the beast is at least less interesting to start, but we'll get there in a couple of missions.
I'm telling you, Overmind, you said that.
I mean, after the end of the mission, he won't be around to hear it.
Wow,
Yes, you're so
spoilers.
So in a world record attempt, we basically don't make anything on this mission. For Marathon, usually we'll build a spawning pool and have the ability to make a couple of extra units, just because the risk-reward is so heavy in the risk factor if we don't make anything.
I'm going all the way. I'm not going spawning pool.
Heck yeah, no safety strats here.
Yeah,
Alright, he really is. We did take, during the discussion about donations, a third hatchery, which is the most outer-lying one. It's the most likely one to eventually go down. Losing that Ultralis is pretty rough.
This is a nasty attack.
Yeah, so what happened here is that, as I mentioned before, there are 5 different players on this map, and the AI in StarCraft it's like moderately consistent. However, it does have a mind of its own. And right there, the brown player and the orange player stacked sets of units on top of each other. He went to engage what normally would be a fine thing, and it was 2 players. Blasted one of his big beefy Ultralists down, and that is going to cause a lot of problems in the future. Are you sure you don't want a spawning pool, Ace?
We're gamers, we don't need no spawning pool. But like Grant was mentioning, the attack patterns are semi-randomized both in exactly when they happen and which of the enemy players will actually be sending units out. So you can just get bad luck and get double attacked from the same side, and it can be a lot harder to hold. This is the first of the mineral-based attack waves. It's 4 red wraiths that come at 2,000 resources.
Fortunately, the Wraith is a meme unit, so this one is going to be cleaned up pretty easily and give Ace a little bit of a reprieve.
A little interesting that it's attacking the third base. Almost always that I've seen attacks one of the first 2.
Yeah, one of the reasons that Ace keeps Phoenix, which is that hero Dragoon, in the bottom area is to deal with those Wraith attacks, so getting it up in the top is definitely some bad luck. There's been a lot of bad luck overall in this mission for him.
Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and build our pool too. That's not good. Let's hope they don't get mad about that.
Yeah, welcome to StarCraft 1 pathing. Ace tried to move his stuff around, and it decided to charge right into the enemy base.
Part of that is map design. The shortest route between point A here and point B here is not this long circuitous route, but rather this short route. But they don't know that it's an enemy base, so they died.
So what Ace is going to do here is most likely get all of his defenses up. He's doing a little bit of emergency defending, and he's going to grab them before that 4,000 mineral mark. That'll be the second mineral-based triggered attack wave, and he just doesn't want to have to deal with that until he can deal with them in quick succession. His economy is very good, so he's going to start blasting up in mineral count. You can see in the top right, the number that is about 3,700 is that mineral count, has to get to 10,000. But it is not going to take another 8 minutes to get there.
This is kind of one of the things about RTS speedruns and StarCraft speedruns in particular, is there's not an optimal series of inputs that you can do and receive exactly the same output every time because of the slightly random aspect of the AI, doing the same input can give you different outputs, and so you really have to be able to react on the fly and respond to what the AI is doing in a lot of these missions, this one in particular. But it really makes playing the game, and especially trying to speedrun the game, really dynamic.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ace now using he has a unit that he starts with called the Queen that has the ability called Parasite that lets him get vision of enemy units. And he's using that vision in order to figure out and pre-position his forces so that he doesn't get caught off guard again. And he's going to be able to use Phoenix and these static defensive structures called Sunken Colonies to take basically all the attackers down.
We've gotten to the point where we are no longer producing any units and are just trying to get our mineral count up as fast as possible and defend with as small of a force as we can, but just big enough to actually deflect the attack waves. We just passed 6,000. Another attack wave should be coming in soon. And then at 8,000 is when the attack waves can get really crazy, depending on what they decide to send.
Speaking of passing, can I just say, we have passed our event record. We've raised $1,179, y'all!
Woo! I wanted to go higher pitch, but my throat wouldn't let me.
Your effort is appreciated. And when you get the chance, I'll get those donations in, but keep it going. You all are doing amazing.
Alright, so the white wraiths are coming in. This is the 6,000 mineral attack force, which Phoenix should be able to take out. He's getting very low, though. And if he dies, the mission ends.
He's got the armor. This is sketchy, though.
It's very...
So
thankfully, safety saves take basically no time to actually enact, so that's what we did there.
So what Ace is going to try to abuse here is, or maybe he's not, but this siege tank has a minimum range, and it has to transform out of siege mode in order... Whoa. Transform out of siege mode, and it has just gone AFK. It broke. All right. Never mind.
This has been...
Losing the third base is not exactly unexpected. It's definitely the most likely base to go down. It would be preferable if it didn't, but it doesn't actually end up causing that much additional time loss. Probably less than 10 seconds.
Yeah, this has been a complete cacophony of a Mission 3. That's okay.
Yeah, I would probably say that this is the most disliked mission in the entire StarCraft speedrun for these reasons. It compounds very hard because you're simply not allowed to build anything if you want to be truly optimal, which means you're at the whims of the AI a little bit, and really no other mission is that case.
Oh, we're almost done here.
Yeah, Ace is going to be able to survive. He did a really good job of getting dealt just an awful hand and still coming out of it. 100 more.
This is shambolically difficult.
Sometimes you sprint across the finish line and sometimes you limp, but we made it there. We get into the Liberation of Core Hall mission number 4, which is arguably the coolest mission in the run, if you like macro.
Yeah, this is going to be the big Zerg Swarm type mission. So those 10,000 minerals that Ace mined, he starts with in this mission, which means he is going to go crazy in production. The entire map, you can see the mini-map on the bottom left-hand side of the screen, that is filled with an absurd set of defenses of Terran and Zerg forces. And Ace is going to have to make basically hundreds and hundreds of units to bust through it all as fast as he can.
You might think that 10,000 minerals is a lot, and that's going to build the army that we need to march across the map. It really doesn't. What it buys us is 5 extra hatcheries to produce units, and an extra expansion, and a whole bunch of drones. So we spend all of our money so that we can make more money. And then make army units.
Yeah, it really just gives a absolutely amazing early speed up, and let's see if Ace can save that Ultralisk. Very nice. It is pretty easy when you're clearing out this base to lose one of those Ultras, and it's just nice to have that guy around for the push later. It's not the biggest thing in the world, but it is just a nice little save.
This is definitely one of the missions that has the most strict build order. Build order in RTS is just the unit that you produce, or the order rather, that you produce units and buildings. This one has been very well optimized to get you at a large attack force as quickly as possible. You start by just building a bunch of hatcheries, taking that base that we've already taken, and to then start producing even more drones.
Yeah, there's been a lot of optimization on this mission. I would argue that it's probably people's favorite StarCraft 1 speedrun mission, at least for Zerg. And as a result, a lot of people put a good amount of time into it to figure out all the optimizations. I know it's Ace's favorite, at least.
It is by far my favorite.
So what Ace is looking to do is set up just an insane economy, and then at about the 4 minutes and 45-second mark, he is going to start a turbo death push that never ends. And that is going to involve a huge number of Hydralisks, which are high damage, decent range generalist attackers, followed up by an absurd number of Zerglings, which are just small, tiny, fast, and do a lot of damage.
Zerglings, the lowest tech army unit in the game, and arguably the best army unit in the entire game, just because they're little tiny death machines. They do so much damage compared to how cheap they are, how many you can get, and how relatively well they move around the map.
Yeah, they do have a couple downsides, though. The main one being that in StarCraft 1, you can only select 12 units at a time, and Ace is going to have over 100 Zerglings at some times. That math means that it takes a lot of control groups to manage, and he literally doesn't have enough hotkeys for it sometimes. So he's going to have to be spending a lot of time very quickly just grabbing sets of units and sending them in the correct places, figuring out where all of his army is at any point in time and where it needs to go.
And in modern RTS games, if you have an army unit and tell it to move past an allied army unit, your forces will move out of the way and let your unit in. In StarCraft, that's not the case. If your units don't have a command to be moving, they don't move. And so you can really get your units hung up on each other and not moving. And so just the ability to adequately control your army is such a huge skill factor in StarCraft that the difference between good and great players often comes down to just how well you can control your army.
Absolutely. I like to say that StarCraft 1 is the world's best LA traffic simulator. Units just don't really move a lot of the time, and they all get stuck on each other.
Yeah. At least you've got some really good music to listen to. Alright, so we're at the point, you can tell now we're just producing army units. We'll be producing no more drones. It is all army all day after this point. And once we get up to around 150 or so supply, that's when we're going to send the first big attack wave out.
Yeah, and this attack wave is basically looking to never stop. He wants to be able to hit through every line of defense, and then as he cleans up the base, he wants to be able to reinforce with enough stuff that he can instantly start hitting the next area. Ace has pretty darn good control for a Zerg player. For a Zerg player, that sounds very rude. He has pretty darn good control, and as a result, he hopefully is going to be able to keep as much as possible alive. Very awkward attack angle at a very awkward time.
Yeah. Normally we can start moving out and catch this attack wave as it's coming in, but it got past our army built up, so it didn't really do all that much damage. Just kind of took away a little bit of focus.
It took a little bit of focus, and it forced Ace to pull some of his units backwards. This lurker is dead, and that is perfect. Now Ace is going to be able to go fully on the onslaught. Now, as you can see here, this is just a lot of defense. There are Zerg sunken colonies, there are Terran bunkers, there are even burrowed lurkers. A lot of area damage is coming out on Ace's army, and he is just trying to blitz through it as fast as possible, while keeping those overlords, which are detectors of cloaked units, up in the front so that he can see burrowed and invisible enemies and take them out before they really mess with him.
One thing that's relevant about AI defense setup in StarCraft is that it's very outwardly focused. So it's like cracking open an oyster. Once you have broken the outer defense, the inside goes down very smoothly.
Yeah, this is doubly true because they really like the cinematic approach of pre-placing a bunch of defenses on the outside, but also the AI really likes pulling its second and third line of defense onto the outside to help, and then there's nothing left in the inside. Now, what Ace is doing right here is a cool little maneuver. The Zerg has a building called the Nidus Canal. It's supposed to be a purely defensive building, allowing you to transport your forces quickly from your base to another base, but the enemy is also Zerg, so he is taking advantage of the fact that both players have creep, and using what is supposed to be a defensive building to effectively teleport across the map once it finishes.
Yeah, and that'll get used later in the run as well. It's really strong when you can get away with it for just moving units around the map. Like we were talking about how just pathfinding is so difficult in this game, and this bypasses a huge chunk of that entirely.
So this base that Ace is going through right now is not actually that bad. There's a couple Guardians, which are long-range siege units, but they only do damage to single targets. Not a whole lot of area damage here. And this is going to be Ace's chance to build up a force to hit the base in the bottom right, or bottom left, that is actually quite scary.
Yeah, siege tanks on defense are the scariest thing in all of StarCraft, arguably.
Yeah, absolutely.
They hit from a massive range, they do a ton of damage, and the unit AI isn't smart enough to move your units into range a lot of the time. They'll just stand around getting shot if you don't specifically tell them, no, go shoot back. And so that's why your army control is so important, because the ability to get more out of your army units is really one of the things that can help speed up your runs.
So Ace is now diving into this final base. You can see there's tanks on the high ground. Ace specifically making sure that those are taken out early. He knows where every single one of these tanks are. Now, as he is doing this, there is actually a base in the bottom center that he hasn't dealt with. Normally you would deal with it a lot sooner, but instead of doing that, he's going to use his rallying assisted forces, basically. Once he's determined that he's got bottom left covered, he's going to send all of his rally down to that center and crush both bases at the same time.
One of the things that's really that you have to pay a lot of attention to on these levels, especially when you're learning the speedrun, is that most of the missions have a completion requirement of destroying all enemy buildings. So even if there's just like an errant missile tower that's hanging around somewhere, not really doing anything, you have to make sure to go hunt it down, otherwise the mission just won't end. So you really need to know where all the buildings are so that you can make sure to take them down at the same time, and you're not just hunting around trying to find a missile tower or missile turret or a supply depot or something.
Yeah, it can be an absolute pain, and it's a little bit, like, deceptive, because the game, once you win, sometimes it takes a few seconds to actually register it. So you're not entirely sure if it's taking a while to figure it out, or if you've actually missed something. And then, if you second-guess yourself, you can lose a lot of time.
Grant, are you familiar with Mario 1 speedruns?
A little bit?
So there's a concept in Mario 1 speedruns called the frame rule, where when you beat a level, you can't actually start the next level until the next frame rule happens. StarCraft 1 triggers run on a very similar way, where the game only checks for an update in trigger status every 1.4 seconds. So anytime that the game has to check, has a trigger been completed or updated, it takes 1.4 seconds for the game to actually do that check, and we'll see that come into play a little bit later, where we're going to be hitting a lot of triggers in a relatively time-critical manner.
Oh, there was a supply depot right down there. Ace got it. He's going to be able to be fine, but this is exactly what we were talking about. One little hidden depot.
Yeah, it was partially covered up by the UI.
And Ace is going to skip this dialogue and head on in to True Colors.
What's up?
This mission starts, I think, in one of the more unique ways in all of StarCraft. This is just another one of those cutscenes. But after that, the enemy forces won't aggro or basically do anything for 5 minutes, 6 minutes. So for the next 6 game minutes, you can do basically anything out of the map, and we have to try to take out as much of the enemy forces, and specifically their unit-producing structures, as possible.
Right. One thing worth mentioning is that the clock for the timer doesn't actually run in real time, because Blizzard doesn't know how time works, and they never have. So he doesn't actually have 6 minutes. I'm not sure how long he has in build with human time. Or does it properly? 4, perfect. So, yeah, the way that this is going to work is Ace is going to build up a nice big economy. There are 5 bases that he needs to destroy here. All of them are pretty well defended, but Ace is going to be taking down a significant amount of really two of these bases. Their defensive abilities, their unit production, all that sort of stuff before the sneak attack ends, so that he only has 3 main ones to deal with.
So
and he's going to work on weakening another one of those bases.
Oh.
StarCraft, when played on the fastest game mode, has approximately 1.4 in-game seconds for every 1 real IRL second. So that 6 minutes divided by 1.4 gives you approximately 4.2 minutes of sneak attack time.
Thank you for the math.
I thank the calculator that I pulled it up for when you were talking about it.
Oh, nice. Now that is truly genius. Right, so Ace right here is trying to target down a bunch of factories. Factories produce, well, siege tanks, which are like some of the scariest units in the game, and Ace doesn't ever want to fight them. They A, do a lot of damage, and B, do a lot of damage.
Yeah.
That's really it.
We actually changed the strat for this mission relatively recently. We used to take a base over there on the right-hand side, but we found after a lot of testing that it doesn't actually make the run faster, it just kind of makes it more taxing, which can often end up slowing you down, so we actually just don't take that base anymore, and we use only the one expansion that we take on the top left to get us through all of our unit production.
Yeah, I'll be completely honest right here. I've never seen the send lurkers into the bottom left strategy either, so I'm just learning on the fly about what the new strats are.
This is one of my favorite missions to experiment with because there is so much you can do. So,
yeah. This mission probably has the most room for optimization left.
Agree. Just let some people cook, but the only people that are playing it are me.
I mean, if he would taunt Thedorton enough, he might start again.
That is true.
Thedorton is one of the other top runners of the game and had the world record before Ace got it relatively recently. Or got it back anyway.
So one of the things that Ace has to think about on this mission is that he's not just fighting a Terran player, he has to fight both the Terran and the Protoss at the same time. They have different units with different strengths, and they're all weak to the Hydralisk. So he's going to make a lot of those.
Yeah, but everything the Zerg has is weak to the Reaver, and we'll see them a little bit later.
He'll be fine.
Yeah,
no one has ever taken damage from a random Scarab. They're completely consistent, and there's never issues with them.
No one has ever not taken damage from a random Reaver shot either.
Well, that's blatantly untrue.
So we didn't get the chance to finish off that left-hand side base, but that's very expected. We're going to use the remainder of our forces to clean it up after the timing counts down. One of the most important aspects of this mission is those 2 lurkers that we just placed on the bridge. There are no diagonals in StarCraft, and each unit square is about the size of a Hydralisk. So units that are trying to move up that upwards left diagonal bridge end up doing kind of a zigzag. And if they don't have detection, they get shot by lurkers. And if units get hit by something, if a unit gets hit by something that it can't see, it will usually try to just run away. So as the mostly red Terran is trying to send units across that bridge, they'll be shot by the lurkers, and those 2 lurkers will hold against almost any size army that they try to send across, as long as they don't have detection, which they usually do not.
Yeah, this is a great way to abuse the AI. It really is difficult for both players and AI to go up and down ramps, stairs, and bridges in this game, due to both their diagonal and very thin nature combined with the poor pathfinding performance of Title Made in 1998. And Ace is going to abuse that to basically require no other defenses throughout the entire mission. The base that used to be on the right-hand side that they used to take would get attacked sometimes. Is the reason that you guys dropped that in order to just not have it be attacked?
Generally, this attack wave is actually coming a little earlier. We'd try to have those 4 sunks completed by then. So Ace is going to have to pull some of his Hydralisks back from cleaning up the Terran base to deal with that Protoss attack force that came in and is doing actually quite a lot of damage.
Yeah, unfortunately, Zealots are very, very high stat units that do a huge amount of damage if they can get on top of their target. So if you have those sunks completed, they can take a couple of Zealots really low before they even reach their targets. But when they're not completed, Zealots are basically on top of you, and melts things very quickly. That's a lot of damage from Ace.
Yeah, but that was a really good adaptation to come back and deal with that attack before it got any critical damage.
Yeah, if he had lost a hatchery or if the Zealots had gotten into his, it would have been pretty devastating for his economy.
So for the next little bit, Go ahead.
No, you go ahead, my dude.
For the next little bit, we are, like the previous mission, building up forces, not to quite the same degree, but also trying to hold off those attack waves, which, as before, are semi-randomized, as well as we're trying to clean up the existing Terran base on the bottom left-hand side. And one of the interesting things about the mission is that as we push forward on the map, we can take different defensive choke points, so we can just move our forces further on the map more safely. And it becomes easier to deal with the counterattacks because we control more of the map.
I'm not like a world-beating expert in this run. Ace is just getting bad luck, isn't he?
It really feels like he's being attacked a lot more than I've seen generally.
Like, I've done this run before, and I don't remember being attacked this often, and it's repeatedly in the same places. Like, we talked about that bridge in the bottom left that Ace generally... Or he has those lurkers on. That attack generally goes up that bridge, right? And it just dies. Ace has to put no inputs in. It just falls over on its own, and... No, he just got incredibly unlucky. Once again.
It's a good thing we have 15 spare minutes. Not that I think that we'll need them, but you know.
So Ace is finally looking to actually move out onto the map and start taking down the targets. The Protoss are going to be his first target, just because the Protoss are easier. I always feel like they're just easier.
Yeah, they definitely are, and they build up a little bit slower into being a threat. And so if the Terran's like gonna be a threat anyway, and we can stop the Protoss from becoming as much of a threat, we can really deal with them a lot more efficiently. But I think we want to clean up the rest of that 9 o'clock base before we move out.
Oh, of course. Yeah, it's always a little bit dynamic on when those bases are going down. So sometimes you can easily forget when you're doing commentary and just not mention it. Right, Doctor?
Absolutely.
Thanks for covering me, bud.
We hadn't mentioned it yet, but one of the objectives as well on this map is to kill Phoenix and Duke, who are enemy commanders. We actually controlled Phoenix 2 missions ago, and now we have betrayed him in a horrible way. And you know, we're just going to send one representative to go and deal with him in a very peaceable manner, and that'll be how we deal with Phoenix.
One representative? Are we going to parlay with him?
Yeah, we'll send our queen, and she'll deal with it.
Yeah, it is. The Phoenix fight itself, if you do it as intended, it is a very long fight. He has a ton of HP, and he actually does quite a bit of damage, and he's out of the way. So, yeah, he's going to send a representative of the monarchy in order to negotiate.
Yeah, unfortunately for Phoenix, he is in fact a biological unit, and that will be his great downfall.
So at this point, Ace has a very nice Hydralisk army. The Protoss is really unable to deal with Hydralisks unless they have a high amount of area of effect damage. And the AI is not very good at getting a high amount of area of effect damage, so Ace is going to start clearing through very, very quickly.
This will also be the first time where Ace has to deal with in-mission dialogue skipping. We had dialogue at the start and end of missions that we can skip, but those are a little bit easier to deal with. During the mission, if we don't hit the dialogue skip, you can be stuck with up to 1 minute of the screen being frozen, no action happening, and just watching characters talk to each other, which is great if you're a fan of exposition and lore. A lot less cool when you're trying to beat the game as quickly as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the big things that Ace figured out is a way to skip dialogue more consistently. For the large majority, about first 20 years of StarCraft 1 speedrunning, the dialogue skip existed, and it was pretty hard to execute, and Ace has made it way, way easier to do. And as a result, he nails it every time.
Yeah, previously it felt like just trying to times... It felt like trying to do a frame-perfect trick with no setup. Because that's basically what it was before, and Ace found the setup.
cannot be the first to claim that I found the setup, but I did find a setup that works for me, and that makes me happy.
Yeah. I'm gonna give you credit for it, bud. I'm gonna take it. Alright, so Ace is now moving into this main Protoss base. The Reaver? Yeah, there it goes. Reavers do huge area effect damage, but those blue Scarab shots are incredibly inconsistent. They got a decent hit on his forces, but it wasn't anything too major. It didn't destroy everything in one shot, which sometimes happens.
Yeah. Ace is setting the screen to the top right. As the screen is scrolling down, that's when you can initiate the dialogue skip by saving and reloading. And that's what Ace figured out, is just moving the camera way off, so as it's scrolling in, you've got the time to initiate the dialogue skip. Otherwise, right now, like mentioned, we would be frozen watching Kerrigan and Phoenix talk to each other.
I do like that it actually just plays through the audio of the dialogue even while you are continuing to play the game. It's actually kind of thematic. It's cool.
Yeah.
So what's happening now, Ace is clearing through that Protoss base. He doesn't really have to do a whole lot of micromanagement in there because they've lost all of their units. So what he's going to do is start preparing the attack on the red base now. As we said earlier, bridges are very, very difficult in StarCraft 1, and he has to go across a bridge in order to get into this red base. So the losses are going to be high. There's not much he can do about it.
Oh my gosh, we got up to $1,400 donated. Let's go, everyone.
Oh, for sure. While Ace has been Zerg rushing the enemy, chat has been Zerg rushing that medical debt. And y'all got time for a few donations?
We did just kill Phoenix, and that's what this dialogue happening right now is, and we're pushing in, but it'll be a minute, so I think we got time for a little bit.
All right, let me see if I can Zerg rush through these. Soulbass218 sends in $20 saying, let's smash that donation PB, and smash that donation PB we did. D_Pounder sends in $100 with a simple message, less than 3. Soulbass218 back for a $5 trade at the 20-minute mark saying, $5 trade, let's go. Come on, chat. Choo choo. And by the way, that trade never stops going, so if you want to join it, hop on, send in those $5. Octini sends in $5. Hack medical debt. All my homies hate medical debt. Miss Ray with $5. Choo choo. Blackheart Wigs with $5. Thank you all for such an amazing week. Less than 3. And Anonymous with $200 saying, wow, doing my part.
That's incredible.
Alright, so this mission features one of the weirdest design decisions in all of StarCraft, in my opinion. There is a single missile turret on an island. And as mentioned previously, a lot of missions, this one included, you have to kill every enemy unit on the map. So we have to make a couple of flying units to take care of literally just that one missile turret. And we want to try to time that for right about as the rest of the enemy bases are being destroyed.
Yeah, Ace has taken a lot of damage from these siege tanks while he's clearing out this base, and he's finally aggroed General Duke, which is an elite battle cruiser that does quite a bit of damage, and Ace is going to have to pull a good number of Hydralisks to actually take him down.
Yeah. This is one of the things that can happen in, especially in the speedrun. You just get units all over the place, so being able to just wrangle all of your units and send them where you need to go is... It doesn't sound like it's a skill, but it definitely is.
Yeah,
oh, we're doing drop strats instead of mutas. I like it.
Yeah, it's cheaper and faster.
Makes sense.
Speaking to the just having units everywhere thing, if you look at the bottom left of the map, or the bottom left of the screen, that is where the mini-map is. Everything that is green is Ace's. So you can see that he has units just everywhere on this map, and it is way too much to deal with when you can only control 12 units at a time. He's currently sitting at a good 154 units because all of his units are one supply apiece, which means that it's a lot of boxing and dragon.
Related, all of the red dots are enemy either units or structures, and we need to basically make all of the red dots on the map disappear. You can see that's what Ace is doing right now. Checking for all of the, like I mentioned, missile turrets and supply depots, making sure we get everything taken care of off the map.
Unfortunately, I think that Ace forgot about these two depots at the top, and they're going to delay him a little bit.
Get them,
workers. Very easy to forget about because they don't really appear on the mini-map due to all the green stuff that was there.
For the first time, Kerrigan wearies of bloodshed.
Now let's go do some more bloodshed.
Yeah.
Yeah, before engaging with more bloodshed.
All right, this mission is super exciting at the beginning. You start with 5 bases, and then you lose all but one of the bases really, really quick. But what Ace is going to do is all these bases have like a little token defense for cinematic purposes. And what he's going to do is grab a drone and all the Zerglings and hide them so that he can lose this base. Then the enemies will move on to take another base. And he's just going to sneak on back and take the base back so he can have 2.
They do keep a lurker for defense. So you can't just take the base back for free, but Ace is good at StarCraft, and so he'll use his units, which in a straight-up fight would definitely lose to a lurker, and do some cool micromanagement to make sure that he ultimately is victorious.
Oh, that was good. Not even shot fire. So lurkers do big damage in a line. Zerglings don't have much HP. Lurkers have to be burrowed in order to shoot. Oh, there you go. So what he did right there was he ran into range of the lurker. Burrowed units cannot move. So then he moved out of range of the lurker, and then he was like, I can't hit it. I'm going to unburrow and walk over there. And then he jumped on it and took it down.
Lurkers can only attack while burrowed for the non-StarCraft players out there, which is why he was able to get away with doing that. This mission, compared to some of others, has a bit of a unique objective. We have to go kill a bunch of enemy scientists. Kerrigan, very anti-science, big fan of spreading the Zerg virus and across the universe, and yeah, so gonna have to get rid of some science men.
And the way that he's going to do that is with a huge number of Zerglings, which is a little bit difficult because he is currently on an island and Zerglings don't have the ability to swim. So what he's going to do instead is he's going to get the Overlord Transport upgrade and the Overlord Speed upgrade and use them as dropships to charge into the enemy base and drop a bajillion Zerglings and just hunt down all the scientists and kind of hope that he doesn't lose all of the Zerglings.
Yeah, the force that we'll actually use to attack is nowhere near strong enough to actually win a fight against all of the defending forces. So we're really trying to like surgically pick off just the scientists and not engage as much as possible with the enemy forces. Sometimes the enemy forces can help with that because they have a defensive spell that will protect their units, but also our units. And our units are more important than theirs, so having something that protects both of us is good for us.
The big problem about what will occur is that these scientists, there are 25 of them, and they just run around randomly.
There are 30 of them. I have it in the prep document.
Oh no, there's 5 more.
Kill 30 scientists, not 25. That's the commentary note.
You're right. Oh no, I make that mistake too much.
So we're going to have to take care of 30 scientists, and they have, like everything in StarCraft, semi-randomized pathing. So there's a wide area where they could be, a somewhat smaller area where they most likely are. But where they are exact, it's like trying to pinpoint down the exact position of an electron. You really can't.
Exactly. And with the UED's apparently reinvigorated science budget, it's going to be harder than ever.
Facility towards the rear of the Renegade's landing zone.
Yeah, Duran claims that this is a small Terran facility. Duran is a liar.
I mean, for like 8 different reasons, Duran's a liar.
Yeah. He'll be okay, though. This is a completely consistent and easy strategy that anybody besides Ace can do. I said that wrong. What I meant is that Ace is the only person that can do this reliably.
I love the way she says scientists with such contempt.
Yeah.
Maybe she just doesn't believe they went to accredited universities. You don't know.
I don't know that she does either, but Kerrigan herself likely did go to an accredited university before she became a ghost.
Is this deep StarCraft lore? I didn't know we were getting that today. That's awesome.
Where's Sorian?
Look, I watched StarCraft Jeopardy. I know that there's a lore category.
Fair enough.
All right,
so Ace right now, he has a pretty good economy going on, and he's going to start pumping out a ton of Zerglings. He has the drop upgrade, which he uses both for the attack. Previously was using it to shuttle workers over to this base that he's snuck to get his economy up a little bit better. Now he wants, what, 14 Overlords? Yeah, 14 Overlords full of Zerglings. 8 Zerglings apiece. I can't do math. That's way too many. It's a lot of guys.
So I'm not a speedrunner. One of my very few contributions to this speedrun is the Sacrificial Overlord. So we're actually going to send one Overlord with 0 units ahead because every island base in StarCraft has just a huge ring of missile turrets or spore colonies around it, so that you can't just drop in anywhere conveniently. You're going to lose some of your forces. So we have the Sacrificial Overlord to just get shot and make it so that our Overlords that have units in them don't get shot, hopefully.
Right. When Ace starts his attack run, that Overlord will most likely not make it, and we are going to need a lot of Fs in the chat when that happens. This is going to be a tragic day for him, but he will sacrifice himself for the Swarm and for the speed. So, be prepared. I have no idea how many Overlords he has full. It's very tough to tell. There's no animation or anything for Dropper Lords.
I'll give you a heads up. I will move full Overlords over to the left. That's how I keep it straight.
That is very smart.
And you have Overlord speed on the way.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, we actually didn't. That's a very important upgrade, because as you can tell, Overlords move very slowly when they don't have speed upgraded.
Yeah, if he had taken all of those Overlords full of Zerglings at that speed, it would have been a lot like that part of Austin Powers with the steamroller. It would not have been pretty.
Yeah, it would be like that scene in Avatar: The Last Airbender with all of the blimps coming over on the horizon, except there would be no firebenders out there. It would just have been the blimps.
A perfect analogy.
It's what they are. They're living blimps and they've got a coffee bean on their butt.
Living the dream. So one thing about this mission is that Ace doesn't actually get attacked very much in the early stages. He just gets to set up, though if he takes longer than he has to, it can be kind of annoying because they do start hitting with air units. So if the initial attack fails, it'll probably just be a reload of a save, right?
Yeah.
No, sorry, the attack will never fail. Ace is perfect.
That's what we hope.
Yeah, a relatively, I say not a new addition, but a safety strategy is that we actually build a couple of Scourges, which are air-to-air units that blow themselves up on their opponents and deal a ton of damage. Right there. And right there. Really, it's just to take care of that one Guardian that can do a lot of damage, because we don't make any other anti-air units. We basically just make the Zerglings, which can't claw at the sky, and Overlords and almost nothing else.
Yep, Ace perfectly preempted that attack wave, and now he is free to do what he needs to do.
It's looking like we're almost ready for the attack wave, and this is when all heck breaks loose.
All heck. Alright, where's the safety Overlord? There he is. This part is a little sketchy. It's not that sketchy, but Ace is basically going to be threading the needle through a lot of anti-air defenses, and it's not actually going to look like there's that many anti-air defenses because Ace knows where to go. But if he missteps even a little bit, then a lot of damage on his Overlords, a lot of dead dropped Zerglings, or not dropped Zerglings specifically. It's not a good time.
It's kind of like when you're watching a speedrun of Kaizo Mario, and they don't hit that many hidden blocks. You just have to trust that they're there, and they'd hit them dozens of times in the past, but they're just not hitting them in the run because they've practiced it so many times.
All right, F's in the chat for the Sacrificial Overlord. He paid the price for his friends. Now you can see all these little civilians in the top right. There's a couple of them. They just don't have any weapons or anything. They're the thin, unarmed guys. Ace is going to have to chase 20 to 30, 25, some number of them down. It's a huge number, more than I have fingers.
All of them. We have to chase down all of them. You can see in the top right, top left that is currently 220 scientists remaining. So you are now corrected as 20 UED scientists.
Perfect. Thank you, Ace, for doing the objective and making me look slightly more correct eventually. So what he's doing is splitting his forces into many different groups and running around trying to figure out where the scientists are and using others to chase down at the same time. He's going to the bottom, to the left, to the right, and now up. 5 more scientists. The last couple ones can often be very, very annoying to find. As I said earlier, they all kind of patrol around, and sometimes they just end up in weird spots like behind depots, in little corners, and that sort of thing. 2 scientists remaining. Where are they?
Got him.
Yeah.
Nice. That was
There
a clean
are
drop.
There are triggers to stop them from going too far, but it's quite wide the range that they ultimately end up having.
Okay, I don't remember the name of this mission, but he is going to run around with our friend Samir Duran, who never tells a lie. What
Drawing
this
of the
has to
web.
do- Drawing of the web, yeah. Perfect, thank you. Duran is an interesting character. He is a hero unit, he's a ghost, which means he has the ability to cloak himself, and he has the ability to disable robotic units, or mechanical units. And what Ace is going to do, you can see on the map there are 4 blue points on the bottom left minimap. He has to bring Duran to 5 of those points. And unfortunately, they're all guarded, and Ace doesn't actually want to fight them. So he's running up to this first point very quickly. He's going to cloak, and he's going to use the ability Lockdown to stun this Reaver that does about 100 damage per shot, stun this Reaver, and then he's going to jump right onto that point and get out. Now, there is actually a cloaked unit. Oh, that was a painful
That's
shot.
reload.
Yeah,
Yeah, Reavers, as
unfortunately-
mentioned, do a ton of damage, and this is one of the most optimized missions in the run. Ace knows pretty consistently how much damage he can take at each phase of the mission, and still be able to complete it.
Unfortunately, it is a very, very tough segment. One Reaver shot, as Ektar said, is basically the end of it. You can see, if you're looking very, very carefully at the top of the map, there are some, like, little wigglies on the map. And those are actually cloaked detectors that have the ability to see invisible Duran. And Ace has to kind of thread the needle between those, even though they're really hard to see, while he's moving his cloaked unit around. Unfortunately, he was barely within vision range in those first 2 attempts, but he got it the 3rd time.
This is also probably the most well-optimized mission. We've run it with cheats on, so he can't take any damage, and the ultimate time for completion was about 4 minutes and 30 seconds, and we beat the mission regularly at 4 minutes 45 seconds. So there's not a lot of time that you could continue to make up for this mission.
So what Ace did right there is these photon cannons that are...
Okay.
You're fine.
Observer and a DT chasing me.
It was okay, man. We believe in you.
Fine.
Yes. Some
He
of the
charged
Wigglies... Some of the Wigglies are detectors, and some of them are ninjas that do a ton of damage when they hit you.
Yeah, all of the Wigglies are bad. That is the TLDR of this mission, is avoid the Wiggly.
That's a different kind of Wiggly.
So what Ace
This
is
is-
going to do right now is he's charging onto those photon cannons, which are static defensive structures and have the ability to detect the cloaked Duran. So then he takes one of them down, and he then uses that to thread the needle for Duran onto the point. And he's going to lose all the Zerglings in the process, but that is fine. Zerglings are cheap and they don't really matter, even though they're very lovable and adorable. He's going to get onto that 3rd point and get out. You can
This
see
is
the
another
results.
mission where that 1.4 second frame rule really comes into play, because we want to spend as little time on the beacons as possible, but you don't know exactly where you are in that frame rule, so you have to make sure you stay on it long enough to actually trigger it before moving on to the next one, and the mission ends when the Duran is brought to the final beacon. But sometimes your health can be very low, and that frame rule can be the difference between surviving and beating the mission and not.
So Ace right here is going to do one of the little bit scarier parts of this mission, which is basically just charging into this big Protoss base and using all of his forces besides Duran as meat shields, just to distract and pull what he can up to this top left-hand side. And it looks like he got through without taking basically any damage. Very nice.
Yeah, it's possible to do this mission without taking any damage. It's expected that in the final push you will take damage, but this is another mission where the semi-randomized unit pathing can make things really tricky because you don't know exactly where the observers are going to be or where the defensive Dark Templar are going to be. And that can make a couple of these mad dashes inconsistent.
That was a really good hit on that 4th point, and Ace has 162 HP, and all he has to do, 154 HP, And all he has to do is get to that final beacon and he'll be able to move on.
Because Duran is definitely an infested Terran and couldn't possibly be anything else, he is regenerating a little bit of health over time, and here we give our last safety save. And this beacon in particular is where that frame roll comes in, because it can be really tight sometimes if you end up taking a couple of Dark Templar shots, but there it is. And immediately after that, he'll go invulnerable, and the mission's over.
Very well.
It was well done. Ace had a very, very unfortunate start with those Reavers, but then once he got that first point down, he did a really good job. As you can see, StarCraft 1 speedruns can be a little bit sketch at times, and he has lost his entire base in the process of this. If he had lost those buildings, he would have been eliminated from the game.
That is definitely a thing that has happened in world record attempts. Duran lives, but buildings die, and so you lose.
Okay, this is to slay the beast. A mission where Ace is going to have to build up for a little bit. There is a giant 5,000 hit point objective in the top right side of the map, and Ace is going to have to both destroy it and specifically destroy it while he has a couple very, very vulnerable units melee range of it. So he's playing a little bit of a hybrid kind of faction. He has mostly Zerg units, however, he has Dark Templar as well. And the Dark Templar have very, very low HP, very high damage. And as I said, they have to be in melee range of this, what is arguably the most heavily defended objective in StarCraft 1 in order to get the kill. So he's going to have to tech up quite a bit, get a couple high tech, probably the highest tech units in the Zerg arsenal in order to keep them safe.
I also don't have a build order document for this mission, which, although I should know it, does give me a little solace, as this one is, again, one of the most precise ones if you want to do it very quickly. So,
yeah, this is also a mission that, if you're trying to go for world record attempts, has a relatively high failure rate if you're trying to cut as many corners as possible. So in a marathon setting, we will make our army about 15% bigger than we absolutely need it to, so we can almost guarantee a successful first attempt overlord or overmind kill.
Grant, I've got good news for you. He only has 2,500 health, not 5,000. We'll get through him a little quicker.
Oh, did you write that in Design Doc too? Because I always make that mistake.
I should have. I forget that you make that mistake.
There's two overminds. So, okay, I need to adjust myself. There's two overminds in StarCraft. One of them has 5,000 HP. The other one is this one. It's easy to mix up which one is which. They have the same name.
So, in the final mission of the original StarCraft 1, we killed the Overmind. In StarCraft Brood War, the Terran faction, the UED, goes and tries to build an Overmind to take control of the Zerg. And Kerrigan, the current leader of the Zerg, doesn't want to be contested in that regard, so we're going to snipe out the new Overmind before it can seize control of the Zerg, and her included.
Man, you just made a bunch of lore nerds really angry with that explanation.
Which, I'm sure I got parts of that a little bit wrong, but what parts in particular would make Subsaurian angry?
They didn't build an Overmind. They just, all the Cerebrets, like, did the fusion.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They themselves formed together to make a new Overmind. That's right. Yeah, still under the UED's control, I believe.
Yeah, I had to push my glasses up. Excuse me. The Cerebrets merged together to form the Overmind right there, sir.
So this mission is definitely the closest thing we get to an auto-scroller in the Zerg speedrun. A couple of the other StarCraft speedruns have literal auto-scrollers where you just have to wait for a certain time for the mission to end. This one, we're limited by how quickly we can acquire Vespene gas, which is less of an objective limit and more of an implicit one, but it's pretty limited nonetheless.
Right. Unfortunately, in this specific strategy, you need a lot of very durable units and abilities that boost the durability of your units. And the only way that Zerg has access to that is with Vespene gas. As a rule of thumb, their minerals are they translate into high damage, low durability stuff, and the gas is a little bit more on the durability side. And there's just no other option here that we figured out.
So since we've got time, Grant, could you tell me why Dark Swarm is the most busted ability in any RTS ever?
Oh yeah, Dark Swarm is truly an ability of all time. So imagine, you're fighting against a bunch of guys with guns. And then you have a bunch of guys that, have teeth. Well, what if there was an ability that made a really, really large radius, make all ranged attacks do nothing, and all teeth still bite people? It's really good. So what Ace is going to do is utilize this incredibly fair and balanced spell, and then he's going to basically create a red carpet that all of his big, big huggy ultralists can walk right down, straight to the Overmind, and chew them apart.
What an incredible way to put that.
The reason that we still need a sizable army and we can't just do it with an extremely small number of units is because splash damage still applies. So when the siege tank shoots, the primary target won't take the direct shot, but it and all of the units around will take the splash damage from it, which is why we still need a reasonably sized army.
It is an incredibly bizarre mechanic, and the only reason that is the case is, once again, this is an old game and weird situations. But yeah, imagine just being shot by a tank, taking it like a champ, and then your friend falls over. Dark Swarm, truly an ability. So right now, Ace is being attacked by a bunch of different things. In theory, Ace could actually lose this game if the 2 Protoss Gateways, Pylon, and Templar Archives went down. However, there's not a chance that he would ever let that happen. Ace's defenses are good enough.
And the DT have to die. I checked this in the triggers yesterday, actually.
Oh, interesting.
The DT has to die with it.
This is one of the few missions where you can lose by method other than a hero unit dying or all of your structures dying. The second mission also has a weird trigger like that.
Oh yeah, that one is the worst. I lose to it every time.
I've learned not to, but it took a couple of tries.
Why is he putting a drone in an Overlord? Is he making a proxy hatch?
I don't know. This was not something that he did the last time that I saw him do this mission. I'm guessing it's got to be a proxy hatch for a Nidus transport, which is a very cool update. We would previously use Overlords with speed and drops, which we have anyway. So I guess it must just be quicker.
It is. So the issue with this is that once I get my army assembled over here, I then have to fly it to the other side of the map. Well, that's slow and not fast. So what I want to do instead is get my army teleported over to the other side of the map and then fly it in.
So one thing that is worth mentioning is any StarCraft veterans right here are probably wondering, why does Ace have 2 hives? And the Zerg tech tree generally only needs to make a single hive, which is basically enables all their highest tech options. However, the drop upgrade and the speed upgrade for Overlords both take an incredibly long time to upgrade, to the point where it's actually better to get to, well, 1 layer and 1 hive, and upgrade 1 from each. Is that a different mission where you do that? Isn't it? You told me about it, and I don't remember which mission it is.
Do what now?
Never mind. I'll be honest, you don't have 2 hives. You have 1 layer and 1 hive, and they look similar, and I'm not used to the skin from Remastered.
Yeah, this is the only mission we do. Any shenanigans like that, as far as I know?
Infested Terran is actually the scariest unit in the game because they deal, I believe, 500 damage if they actually connect.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, it's 500.
Yeah, if any of you played any of the old custom games, there's a reason that the Urukai got 1 of those to break the gate open with. They're just ridiculous.
That is
a really specific reference.
And yet, if you played StarCraft back in the day, you probably understand what I'm talking about.
Right, but Ace has never seen Lord of the Rings, so he doesn't understand what you're talking about.
You're kidding.
No, I know.
Someone take away Ace's nerd card. It's incredible.
Yeah, we can't be confusing a runner like this, okay?
Fine. Alright, so we're using Consume, which is an ability that allows us to destroy one of our own units and acquire energy, which we're going to need for casting of Dark Swarm. We're building up our forces over here on the right-hand side of the map, and in just a bit, we're going to be doing our safety save, and then it's just a mad dash to try and kill the Overmind before its defenses kill us.
Yeah, this is a bit of a technical push that's going to be going on. These Ultralisks have a huge amount of HP and durability, and they're going to be the ones that truly soak a lot of the shots as the Dark Templar get over to the Overmind. But as I said, the Dark Templar are the ones that actually have to be in melee range with the Overmind when it dies or it respawns. And if it respawns, you're not taking it down again. So
No,
it can be...
Darkstorm doesn't last anywhere near long enough for that to be feasible.
And as a result, Ace is going to have to charge in and do a little bit of a technical dance because the Ultralisks are also quite chunky. So here they come. He drops them off into the Dark Swarm, and now he's going to pull them over on the right-hand side, charge everything up, get the Ultralisks in front of everything so that when the enemies initially aggro, they are hitting the Ultras instead. Dark Templar are moving up, and he's going to try to get that Dark Swarm onto the target. There it is. Now he's not taking any range damage, and he's going to try to burn it down as fast as possible, hopefully before any of the Templar die. He's doing a really good job, and he takes it down.
Yeah, that was pretty close. There were a couple of Ultralisks that were
scuffed.
just running around and not doing anything.
That was so scuffed.
We got, and then Zeratul comes in to kill steal.
But it worked, and that's all that matters. All right, 3 more missions remaining, and one of them is only like 12 seconds long, right?
Are we doing the bonus mission?
I was about to say, do we get the incentive in to do the bonus mission?
Well, I'm checking real quick. Give me just one moment here. Let me go check with the organizers because it looks like that's not in my ability to see, but I will get right back to you on that.
No problem.
It's
All
okay.
right, this
there's
is-
a long time because as you can see, there's a 30-minute timer for this mission, and it's definitely going to take all 30 of those minutes to beat.
Yeah. And we have to beat the mission with at least 10 minutes left on the clock to activate the bonus mission, so fingers crossed we'll be able to get that done in time if we did meet the incentive.
Is it really 10 minutes? That's
No,
brutal.
it's 5.
Oh my god, it's so much easier than I think that it is. Unsurprisingly, we're going to be nowhere close to that time.
So this mission is a bit of a funky one. There is a Terran base to the north of Ace, there's a Terran base to the south of Ace, and then the north and south both lead to a Protoss base in the middle that has huge defenses on the top right and bottom right, where the ground paths normally lead. So what Ace is going to do is he's just going to walk behind the Protoss base, or rather he's going to use Overlords to drop behind the Protoss base, and just peel them apart from the inside.
So one of the interesting things about the StarCraft AI is that when you attack a base, they try to respond with a similarly sized force to a certain degree. And so the bigger attack force that you have, the more of their own defenses they'll bring up to try and defend. And when Ace was trying to optimize the initial attack with the Guardians in this mission, it was a question, do I make 3 or do I make 4? Because with 4, it triggers additional defenses, and with 3, you can't destroy the defenses quite as quickly. Somewhat jokingly, I asked, what if you attacked with 3 and then bring in a 4th one? And that turned out to just be a really good strategy because it doesn't pull the big initial wave of defenses, but then you can still snipe down the Reavers in fewer shots.
Yeah, there's a lot of little interesting uses of the StarCraft AI that happen in this run, and we didn't get to talk about all of them because some of them are incredibly ornate. The AI in this game is very complicated, and I'll be honest, I don't think anyone truly understands it.
Necron. That's it.
Okay, there's one guy on Earth who actually understands the AI fully in this game. It is wild what they did to try to simulate a decent experience at the time. Honestly, it's far beyond anything that like StarCraft 2 does.
All right, well, I've got some good news and some good news. First, your bonus mission was indeed met, so you're all clear to get us some more StarCraft after the end of this run.
Sweet.
It is actually... Oh, we're doing it after the run, not during?
Oh, is it during the
we
run?
can do it.
I'm not sure about the time.
It could be either. It could be either.
This is a
It can be
decent
during the run.
This is going to be decent, so I'll just do it afterwards real quick.
Okay.
This is actually...
All right, and if I could just get in that other good piece of good news real quick. I'm being told that we did open another incentive. This one is for our finale run, Ghost of Tsushima by Emerald Alley. It is an incentive to pick the armor color that they will be using. You can choose from black, white, red, or green. Just make sure you select your option when you make that donation. We've raised $1,435 so far for RIP Medical Depths. Oh, thank you so much. Maybe we can get it to over $1,500 before this run is over?
I believe in chat. You're all beautiful humans, but only do what you can. So we've got our beachhead that we are forming here on the western side of the Protoss base. We're building another Nidus Canal because, again, teleporting units is a lot better than ferrying them through overlords. And once we breach these outer defenses, the inner parts of the base really do just kind of crumble. So we're using the Guardians to pull units out so we can take them out in small groups at a time, but especially those Reavers because they kill Hydralisks like nothing else. But once we've got all of those taken down, we're going to be able to send in our Zerglings and really clean through the space very quickly.
Ace did a very good job at keeping all of these Guardians alive while sniping those Reavers. I don't think that the Reavers even got a good shot off, did they? So Ace is going to be sitting pretty when it comes to this cleanup.
Yeah, just I think one more Reaver to take out and then we can really get in there, because even more than they kill Hydralisks, they definitely kill Zerglings. Like, no matter what part of the splash they're getting hit with, Zerglings will die.
And as you can see, as Ektar was talking about earlier with the enemy responding in kind with force, they only send a couple units at a time in order to try to engage these Guardians, and that is why Ace is able to clean them up so easily. It's not that easy. All the Guardians are obviously very damaged, but Ace has good control.
Let's go.
Yep, we got all the Reavers. We didn't even lose any of the Guardians, and you know their DPS is not insignificant for getting rid of the base.
Ace now moving in. A couple of Scourge took down that capital ship carrier. The Guardians looking good, and a huge number of Zerglings. Zerglings have by far and away the best damage output per dollar invested in the game, which means against defensive structures, they are the king at clearing through them quickly.
Yeah, and really, they're producing units at this point, but they're coming out very piecemeal, so they're not able to mount an effective defense once we took care of all of the Reavers, and so I think we're going to come in just over that 5-minute mark like we talked about.
Unfortunately for the AI, one of the things, they do produce units to the best of their ability, but they just lack the number of structures to actually do it at a decent rate. So they really do rely on those pre-placed units in order to defend, which is why Ace is so easily able to pull them apart. That was good. That
was a great
Yeah,
time.
I'm not super familiar with the expected time per mission, but that felt quick.
That one's very good.
Now there's going to be another dialogue skip, and we are heading to Omega.
There's a lot of skipping to do here.
Yeah. Omega is... It's like Mission 4, where it's just a giant macro mission, except we don't start with 10,000 minerals. And we have even more army to take care of. We're surrounded on all sides by giant, well-defended bases, and we have to just ravage all of them.
Yeah, it is one of the biggest maps in the game, and it is all covered in enemy, which is... Ace unlocked the secret mission right there, has to jump out and head into Omega. There we go. So what Ace is going to do here is focus really, really heavily on economy in the early stages. He's going to get 3 bases up, not just 3 hatcheries, but 3 different mineral fields mining, and then he is going to make the world's largest supply of Hydralisks. And they're going to really mow through everything. The Hydralisk is just consistent and works well against everything. The enemy has a lot of stuff like capital ships here, so we can't use Zerglings because you need something that can hit aircraft.
Yeah, so the commentary notes for this mission are drones, upgrades, drones, 3 bases, 70 drones, and then just the word Hydras 70 times.
So if you saw what happened right there, there's just StarCraft 1 being StarCraft 1. Ace ran a Zergling we're right under a little like solar powered umbrella thing. I'm not entirely sure what it is. And for some reason, he can just be hit by landmines and it doesn't hurt him. Doesn't make sense, but it disarms the mines.
You know, there's a couple of weird mechanics in StarCraft, like units that are on the high ground have about a 43% chance to just not be hit by attacks. They don't take damage. It was the closest thing that they could do to like a damage reduction effect is they just make it miss a little less than 50% of the time.
Yeah, it's a very cool mechanic until you miss 15 times.
It's a very cool mechanic on the large scale. On a small scale, it sucks because it turns what should be a slightly advantageous fight into a fight that you lose for no fault of your own.
So there are 3 enemies on this mission. There is a Protoss player, helmed by Artanis in the bottom right. There is the UED, who is a Terran player that focuses on big old battle cruisers and stuff like that. And then there is Arcturus Mengsk, another Terran player in the bottom left. And he really likes the siege tank. So the order that Ace is going to be clearing through them is he's going to take down the Protoss first, because Protoss is bad. And then he is going to take down the UED, because battle cruisers are bad. And then he is going to take down Mengsk because he wanted to delay dealing with the siege tanks for as long as possible. And he has no options now. Is that about right?
Pretty much. The Protoss base is the easiest to take out, but it could become a pretty big threat if left alone for a long time. Whereas the Red Terran is always a threat, so we leave it for when we are best able to deal with it when we have the largest army.
Yeah, for reference, we'll lose about twice as many units against the single Red Terran compared to the other 2 players combined. So, we're going to take a lot of damage for that one. But that's what we must do, and that's why we saved them for last, just because I don't want to have to replace an entire army multiple times over.
Like it or not, depending on your perspective behind speedrunning and RTS, this is maybe the least speedrun of the speedrun missions. It's play StarCraft very, very well in most respects. Which is why some of the other runners that have had the world record have a lower total time, but have just incredible time on this mission in particular by just being good at StarCraft.
Yeah, it's a tough one, and StarCraft is one of those games that has close to an infinite skill ceiling. Of course, it has a very, very deep professional scene that is still active to this day, specifically in South Korea. And the players there, when you get one of them, someone that can play well on the ranked ladder, to sit down and play this, it is insane how quickly they can do it and how fast they do it.
Or how quickly they can rage quit in one particular instance.
Oh, really?
I mean, you were the host for that.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't thinking of that.
He did say professional Korean ladder, like...
He did say really high up on the Korean ladder.
Ah. Yeah.
I didn't mean Artosis, but okay.
That's maybe my favorite thing that you've ever done is get Artosis onto that level in particular.
I'm really happy I did that. I knew it was going to be interesting. So Ace is going to saturate these bases. You can see he has a ton of drones. This is going to give him an amazing economy because he's going to lose, multiple maxed out armies worth of units throughout this mission. It's not a problem. He can refund it. It's Zerg Swarm. That's what it's supposed to do. He just needs to make sure he has everything going. He's not going to need any more bases past this because he's going to win quickly enough. But he is looking to start transitioning to units fairly soon, I think.
Yeah, this is a mission that doesn't really have any fancy strats. Like, we don't do Nidus shenanigans to bring units closer. We don't do we don't snipe out high value units with like the Queen or anything. It really is just make big army, control big army very well, which are atypical sort of speedrunning skills, but they are very important here.
Yeah, the only thing that Ace really has to watch out for is sometimes there's some pretty high area of effect damage abilities, for example, the Protoss, who can have stuff like Reavers. If his initial strike gets hit by some pretty heavy AoE, it can slow him down a ton. But once he gets the momentum, he can't. Every loss is a very, very negligible amount of time. Obviously, it's going to take some to get replaced in the fight, but when you have 100 Hydras, it's not that big of a deal. And sometimes it's better to take extra damage and shove in faster than it is to avoid the damage. But not at that early stage. It can really make or break. What are those drones doing? Perfect.
So we've had some pretty bad luck earlier in the run, but we haven't had any attack waves yet, which is pretty lucky, because if you get bad attack patterns in the start of this run, it can be really difficult to deal with and slow you down quite a bit, because you have to commit to army earlier than you want to, which slows down basically everything after that.
Yeah, absolutely. And once he has enough drones, all of his hatcheries are going to be producing Hydralisks at an incredibly fast speed. And that is going to mean that attack waves are much easier to deal with because he has that constant rally coming from all of his bases at all points in time.
I think we're just at about the point where we're done with drones. It is hold down the H key, make as many Hydralisks as possible, continue getting upgrades. It looks relatively easy because Ace has done this hundreds of times, but there's a lot of mental bandwidth making sure you're doing everything correct and responding in the correct way. And Ace makes this look significantly easier than it actually is. This is just a mission that people will lose on playing regularly without trying to speedrun. It's very difficult, and Ace is doing a lot of things that it's hard to explain exactly why it's good or do it quickly. So I guess just kind of take my word for it that he's playing really well right now.
Well, if you want some hard numbers, there is a counter. You can see in the bottom center there is a time counter, but there's actually another integer there as well. It's around 210 right now. That is Ace's actions per minute. That is, on average, how many buttons he is pressing every minute. Currently, he is sitting about 220, which is almost an average of 4 buttons per second that he is, or 4 actions that he's doing per second. And sometimes actions actually take more than 1 button. So he's sitting in more like 4 to 5 buttons per second on average while he's controlling this giant army and sending it on the attack. It's a lot of stuff to do.
I saw a video once where it compared professional StarCraft Brood War actions per minute to professional Super Smash Bros. Melee. And if you ever heard a professional Melee player's control stick, it's a lot of actions. Like, 4 actions a second might not sound all that fast. Like, 15 frames is a pretty long window in some speedrun, but doing it for an hour and 40 minutes is pretty taxing.
Yeah, Ace is playing very quickly. 200 actions per minute is well beyond any normal player. Definitely, that is the speedrunner and like high-level competitive StarCraft player only. So, and keeping it up consistently, as Ektar said, or not Ektar, oh, Ektar said, is that is an annoying tank.
Yes, that tank has a shield which basically stops it from taking damage for, oh god, 400 damage? 200? No, it's 200 or 250. Yeah, so it'll just give it a giant extra pool of temp hit points, basically. Makes it a lot harder to take out.
In the meanwhile, though, Ace has absolutely steamrolled this Protoss base in the bottom right-hand side. He has a lot of Hydralisks and is looking really good here.
Yeah, we're still close enough to max that it won't be long until we start swinging up to the north. And look, if you can see on the minimap, towards the top center, we're already building up forces for that next big attack wave.
Yeah, exactly. One of the important things in this mission specifically is knowing when you have enough to beat the base so that you can start attacking the next base as fast as possible. Because for the first 2 bases, it doesn't matter when you beat them as long as you can get the attack going on the 3rd base faster.
This mission
is doing a Nidus. Look at that.
Interesting.
To us.
I feel that I've been misled in having watched his previous runs. Where are these new strats developing from?
This is
I know, I was feeling that.
Always done. Illusion's got in its build order.
I feel like we're being lied to right now.
This dude's just chilling.
Ace coming up with new strats on the fly and then trying to gaslight us on it. Incredible.
Yeah.
What a guy. He can play 200 actions per minute and gaslight.
Admirable qualities for sure.
Really the two important skills you need in life. So Ace really soon is going to start the attack on that northern Terran base. The base up there really isn't that bad, simply because the scariest thing the Terran has available to it is the siege tank, and the UE, they just don't really make them. So Ace he's going to have to fight a lot of stuff, but it's not the scariest stuff. It's really just high durability units like the battlecruiser.
Yeah, they'll send all their siege tanks in the opening push, and that's the hardest part.
Do they even siege them up? I'm sure they do.
Yes.
Okay.
You'll see.
One of the things that's kind of interesting about the StarCraft AI is that in a lot of cases, they actually have to spend the time to research upgrades. They don't just, for example, start with siege mode in every mission, even if they have siege tanks from the start of the mission. So being able to effectively attack enemy forces before they have their key upgrades can be a real deal breaker. Like in some of the previous Protoss missions, we make sure to attack them before they get Psionic Storm, which is a big AoE ability that can make things way harder to push into.
Yeah, absolutely. And you might notice that we're attacking the Ace is attacking the Protoss first in this mission as well for similar reasons. The Protoss, a lot of their units have very, very powerful spells, but they don't actually have good combat abilities on their own. So if you hit them before those upgrades, it's a shoo-in to win. Now the Protoss player has not formally surrendered yet. Oh, there we go.
I think you can say we. This is our speed run too.
Yeah, we did it.
Yeah, we're doing really well right now.
We are.
So after Artanis surrenders, we're gonna redirect. We're gonna start redirecting our forces over towards the red Terran base because, as mentioned, that's the hardest one to push through. The existing forces in the top should be enough to finish the. I forget who's up there. Is it Duke or is it Dougal on this one?
It's Dougal.
Dougal, thank. So they'll be able to finish off Dougal. There's awkward chokes and stuff, but it's really just a matter of making sure to clean up all the buildings before he surrenders. You don't have to get every building, you just have to get all of the production structures. So things like supply depots and refineries don't count for making them surrender, but things like barracks and command centers do.
Yeah, we didn't really get a great glimpse at it, but there is a really tight choke point in that base. And fortunately, the AI takes, as soon as they get attacked, they take all of their defenders around it and just pull them away to try to defend somewhere else, which means that you don't have to go through the death grinder. However, this red base is
meat
the
grinder. Yeah, attacking siege tanks across a bridge. It is like literally the nightmare scenario for attacking in this game, which is why we have to send just wave after wave of our own men at the problem.
As you can see right there, the AI is also good at using abilities like that defensive matrix, the 250 HP shield, another one on those siege tanks, making it harder to snipe them. Layers upon layers of siege tanks. A lot of damage to Ace, but he is able to replace those units as soon as they fall.
And one thing that he's doing that's really important is not just letting the units choose their own targets, he's strategically sending in units to snipe out those tanks. Otherwise, the Hydras will just attack the buildings and get shot to death if left to their own devices. They're not the smartest soldiers, so we have to really make sure to micromanage what they're doing very well.
Oh my god.
Oh wow.
He is on point with these defense matrices today.
And that is why you save this base. Oh man.
That was a brutal spider mine.
Ace's supply is starting to drop, however, he does have good production. He's going to be able to keep it going. I think send in a little infantry contingent. Oh, that's a lot of tanks.
That's a tank or two.
Oh my god.
Thanks. No.
This is what we
so
have.
the siege tank has it can only fire its high damage blast while it's sieged up. It takes a little bit of time to siege up, so what Ace is going to do is every time that the enemy is away, they'll go into tank mode, which is not nearly as dangerous. And then he forces them to walk over, jumps on them while they're not in siege mode, does some damage. They also have a minimum range, and we can see they use an over to drop some troops right on top of them. where they couldn't hit, or if they could hit, do massive splash damage and hit their friends.
Yeah,
There
so
was
at the start of that attack
multi-layered
wave,
tactics there.
at the start of that attack wave, we had just about 200 supply. That single tank cluster dropped us down to about 140 supply, so we lost 60, and accounting for Aces building things at the same time, so it's actually way higher than that. That one tank cluster, it just kills so many of our forces. That's why we need such overwhelming numbers to actually push into this base, but for the most part, the outer defenses have been cracked, so a lot of the rest of this is mostly just going to be cleanup and making sure we can avoid a few high-value units like that extra rallied siege tank.
As Ace said before, or maybe it was you, I don't remember who, the production structures are the only ones that matter here, and unfortunately on this high ground, there are a couple command centers just chilling out with nuclear silos attached. And they take quite a while to destroy, and Ace has to get the drop upgrade in order to do it. It is inconvenient for a structure that doesn't produce anything that is scary, only produces SCVs.
Yeah, but after we take out the production structures, and there's only a few of them left, that couple of command centers, I think the science facility counts because it can produce, yeah, it can produce science vessels.
No.
The science facility doesn't.
No, Starport does.
Oh, yeah, that's right, that's right.
Yeah, it's only Barracks Factory, Starport, and Command Center.
And we're
There
going
we
to be
go.
coming up on time.
Time. Alrighty. Cool.
So, well, do we have the time for that? The total? 134.
Right now on the screen, I see 1 hour, 34 minutes. And as of when you said time, 26 seconds. Took a little bit longer to pause the timer, but GG's.
That's a good time.
That is a good time. That's actually very good. I would sure love to be able to skip these credits. Thank you, game. My frame rate has dropped to 0, so I'm going to quickly give the game a restart. That was very odd. I'm going to go quickly do the bonus mission that everyone has so generously donated for. That was an impressive swell of donations for this run, so I really appreciate everybody. Big hearts to everybody there.
Yeah,
And,
so
while
you
you're
said it was
loading in-
you said it was 132.26?
134.26.
134.26. The world record is currently 132.19, so pretty decent.
And while you're getting that loaded, and if I could just remind you to share the Discord again for your commentators, your fantastic duo here, because I've learned so much more about StarCraft since.
For sure.
Just
You
quick
closed
reminder
the game, didn't you?
Yeah.
that we are raising money for RIP Medical Debt! Donate in the chat will get you that handy link. We've raised again $1,435 so far, and we are getting ever closer to the end of the event. Our next run, Cult of the Land, does have an open incentive for the name of the cult. Right now, Cult of the Meteor is in the lead at $108, but Test Cult not far behind at $100. Make sure you select your option when you make your donation.
Ace, might I recommend there is no cow level?
It doesn't work. You have
It
to
doesn't.
No. You have
Oh,
to
gosh.
specifically finish the mission. And I don't know how to Ophelia to the bonus mission, which is a level skipping
I'm
cheat.
Googling it, bro.
I'm trying to as well.
Yeah, so what's happening right now is that in order to do the bonus incentive, which is the bonus mission, you have to beat this mission with 5 minutes remaining. However, Ace was having an issue that caused him to restart his client, and when you restart the client, you lose that progress. So now he's just clearing through the mission with invulnerability cheat on.
Shush. It's legit. We'll be...
Man, why aren't all speedruns done this way?
I
It's
know.
so much faster.
Yeah, just use cheat codes, bro. What is something for nothing? What is that cheat code?
It gives all upgrades, so I get plus
Upgrades.
one, and importantly, it also gives like upgrades like Ling Speed and Adrenal.
Oh.
This is a cool cinematic way to look at the game as well.
Yeah, everything will be going down in a moment. It's pretty crazy to think that you just used cheat codes and you're going to take over 2 minutes, but you took 6 minutes with the actual speedrun strat. Like, that kind of shows how fast you are with the actual strat.
Our forces are under attack.
Cool.
Nailed it.
220. Alright, let's dialogue skip through this and then let's get right onto the bonus.
So as this is the Zerg campaign, and in the Brood War expansion, the bonus mission is, of course, a Protoss mission.
Yes, we're gonna be following Zeratul at a somewhat ambiguous time in the timeline.
What?
And he's gonna discover some dark and terrible secrets. To be fair, Zeratul loves dark and terrible secrets. It's like his favorite thing.
Okay, do you want to cover this one or should I?
You go for it.
All right. This is a very, very fast mission called Dark Origin. Zeratul is going to spawn. He is a Dark Templar. He's invisible. He's got a lot of durability. And he's going to have 4 big ol' red cotton balls with him that are called Dark Archons. These are mind control units. What Ace has to do is get to the bottom right-hand side of the map. Dark Archons are a very bulky unit that don't actually have attack, but they have 2 very powerful spells. So what Ace is going to do is grab them in Zeratul, start running right over here. He's going to mind control this siege tank and that siege tank. This is their first really powerful building, really the only one we use here. Mind control, insanely powerful, but he only has 1 charge each for them. Now he's going to grab the Dark Archons that have mind control available still, have a science vessel, which allows him to put shield on his units. He puts that shield on his 1 remaining mind control, and Zeratul, who has to get to the end, is going to run right on over to a special little corner. There he is. Now in this special little corner, there is going to be a dropship that is on patrol somewhere. Oh, it's coming. Oh, listen, it's American Transit. It's always late. That's how it is. There we go.
Shout out to semi-randomized pathing.
So he grabs the dropship, Zeratul inside of it, has a safety save, and now is going to dive down to the bottom right-hand side of the map, skipping the entire mission, and hopefully not getting shot down before he can drop Zeratul out and get on to the point. Easy. A dialogue skips. This mission has, did we time? Well, it's like, how many minutes of dialogue is it if you don't skip?
Reminder, you can't dialogue skip or you die if you don't get out of vision.
Yeah,
normally this mission, like a lot of the missions where the hero unit, during the final dialogue, your unit becomes invulnerable. On this mission in particular, if you do dialogue skip, Zeratul doesn't become invulnerable, so you have to be careful he doesn't die during the remaining dialogue skips.
But the bottom right is a safe spot, and he did manage to get down there with a little bit of HP remaining.
This is the longest single dialogue in the game. It's over 2.5 minutes long. We just
2.5
zoomed through
minutes.
it. With that prepare to die, incentive complete.
It's a good thing we destroyed those hybrids so they won't become a problem in the future.
All right, that is it. We are done here. Thank you so much to Meteor Speedruns and for having me on. The whole everybody for donating like $500 during my run. That was awesome, especially I think there was an anonymous 200, and I know Nastrinus put 100 in. That is awesome. Thank you very much. And to Grant and Ektar for commentating the whole thing. So, yeah. And of course, to the Meteor Speedruns community for putting this whole event on, which has been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed lurking around and watching some of the runs.
That was amazing to watch. Thank you so much for running it for us.
Thanks for hosting.
And just real quick, hey, if people who weren't part of that rush in chat want to see more of you being amazing, where can they find you?
I stream both StarCraft and Jet Set Radio Future on my Twitch at twitch.tv/7thace and post sometimes on YouTube. If it's, edited content or something like that.
And Eckhart Grant, of course, we couldn't have had this fantastic ride without you two guiding us along. Same for you. Where can we find you?
You can find me extremely infrequently at twitch.tv/Ektar. I do Heroes of the Storm commentary from time to time, and even more occasionally do something that isn't that, but mostly Heroes of the Storm commentary.
Woo.
And I do RTS stuff at Giant Grant Games on YouTube.
All right. And once again, this has been StarCraft Brood War, raising money for RIP Medical Debt. My name's Minsoku, and I've been your host, and it has been a pleasure getting a front row seat to this run. Your next host will actually be Blackheart Wings, who you may have seen earlier today, running that Stardew Valley run. So stick around. We'll be right back with Cult of...